Hey guys, Ben here and welcome back to another video on Superman Lois Season 4. Today we're going to be talking about Episode 7, titled A Regular Guy. We're going to be breaking down the sneak peek for the episode, which features a brand new character who is a huge character from Superman comics, as well as breaking down some photos for the episode. So if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos later this year. I apologize for a couple of days off, haven't had too much to talk about, but I just thought I would put all this into today's video the night before this episode comes out so we get a chance to talk about the debut of Jimmy Olsen. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into this. We're going to break down the synopsis first, and then we're going to get into the sneak peek, and then we'll get into the photos as well. So the episode, as I said, is titled A Regular Guy. It will air tomorrow. The episode is going to be directed by Gregory Smith, who is the brother, in fact, of the person who is going to be playing Jimmy Olsen in the show. And so this is how the synopsis goes. After some concerning interactions in town, Clark is determined to protect the secret that he's Superman, which is a task complicated by Jonathan and Jordan. Lois considers the future of the Gazette after Chrissy proposes something drastic. So that's the episode synopsis for episode 7, so we know that Chrissy is going to be in this episode, so I presume maybe Carl is going to have some sort of a role in this episode as well, and you're going to have that story going on with Lois considering the future of the Gazette after Chrissy proposes to do something with the Gazette. I have no idea how drastic she's going to go, but they do state it's going to be drastic, so probably big changes coming. And then in the meantime, you got Clark, who is determined to protect the secret that he's Superman, which obviously is going to be a really tough task, given that Jonathan and Jordan have, say for instance, recently told Candace that their dad is Superman. I don't think that's going to be the issue, but it's the fact that when they were quizzed the other time in one of the episodes, they didn't deny that their dad was Superman, so that is going to be a little bit tricky. And I think Jonathan and Jordan are going to argue the opposite and say, look, you've already done so much, you fought Lex in the middle of the street, they all saw our reaction when you died. So with everyone in Smallville suspecting that you're Superman, surely you just got to embrace it, right? And I don't know if this is not going to go smooth and maybe he will have to embrace it. That could potentially be a thing that happens. But for now, Clark is determined to protect his secret, and yes, he's going to face opposition, but I believe Lois is probably going to be on board with what Clark wants to do, even though it's going to be really, really tough to try and convince everyone that he is not Superman. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the sneak peek. So let's break it down bit by bit, because Warner Brothers uploaded this sneak peek and it's a really interesting flashback. So it's a flashback at the Daily Planet. Obviously we've had quite a lot of that so far. We've seen various interactions, mainly between Clark and Lois, and also Lex has been in the office before, but this episode is going to be featuring Jimmy Olsen. Now I'm super excited to see Jimmy Olsen, but the way he's been described in the show is a little bit different than what we're used to seeing. He's more of the life of the party. I believe that's what they said when they talked about him at first. And so this Jimmy Olsen, as you see in the sneak peek, is definitely more like that. He's not shy. You can tell that just by the way he asked Clark to be in the softball team, and you know, talking about them trying to be friends other than just like work friends. And I think the way that he's going about it, he seems a bit douchey to me. Like, I don't know if that's just me, and let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. But he's definitely got something like a little edge to him that you're not used to seeing with Jimmy Olsen. And in the background of the shot, you've got a talking role for his sister, who is supposedly good friends with Lois, and they hang out together as actual friends. And so Jimmy is trying to get Clark to come on board and join the softball team. It's not anything super serious or anything, it's just a bit of fun, and it's a way to bond with his colleagues in a different way than he is used to. Clark doesn't do sports, we all know that, and that's because of his powers and how, you know, it's pretty risky if he does expose himself in any way. So this sneak peek has led me to believe, with how everything has been quite linked in with the flashbacks and the present day, with him being wary about showing his powers if he plays softball, and the fact that he's probably going to end up playing softball with Jimmy Olsen. Like, is there a moment where Jimmy finds out in the episode, and that could be the first time that anyone who is not Lois finds out in real life for Clark, and that could be a big moment in a flashback later in the episode? That is a theory of mine. I don't know if that's going to come true, but potentially with them becoming closer and closer, with them becoming actual pals, Clark could be running into some trouble with his identity, which this episode is literally all about. I mean, the episode title is literally A Regular Guy. And so he does a pretty strong job trying to convince Clark to join the team. Lois is really on board with what Jimmy is proposing, and that's because Clark doesn't really have many friends in Metropolis. He only has his family and his work colleagues, but he doesn't have someone that's actually a good friend. And obviously we all know Jimmy Olsen in the comics and in most versions is Superman's best friend, or best pal as they say. And so with Clark denying the opportunity at first, obviously Jimmy's very bummed out by it, so is his sister, and Lois pulls him away, and they have this great mini interaction where Lois is scolding him, saying like, you don't need to come up with all these excuses, you can have friends, you can do normal things, and you can just pretend not to be good. You don't have to use all your powers when you hit the softball ball when it comes flying at you. You don't need to smack it to the moon and the sun and back. You can just pretend like you're not good, like a normal person, a regular guy, as the title says. And Clark realizes he can do that, and I like that. And you get this nice moment at the end of the sneak peek where they smile as Clark comes up with a great idea. I don't fully understand what he's talking about, just like Lois didn't understand. I guess I just don't know anything about softball or anything like that myself, but it was a great moment, and I'm loving these moments that we're getting between Clark and Lois, especially these flashbacks. You know, they're quite valuable, seeing them before the boys or seeing them before Smallville, because they were living a completely different life. They were working 9-to-5 jobs. They were in all the time in the busiest newspaper in all of Metropolis. And so this is a great sneak peek that really shows the humor of the show, but also how great Clark and Lois are together. I mean, the chemistry is just always on point. And in regards to Jimmy Olsen, let's just have a few more words on him. I think the actor is doing a good job for what they're asking. I have a feeling he's not going to be everyone's favorite Jimmy Olsen, just based on the way he's going to act. It's going to be a little bit un-Jimmy-like. It's going to be something different, and I think that's because they needed maybe a different dynamic in these flashback scenes. Someone who is a bit different from Clark and not be exactly the same as him, because I guess it just makes for better TV. So I understand why they've gone down this route. Now let's go ahead and talk about the photos that have been released for this episode, because it all links in, and this shows a couple of other scenes in the episode which are going to be quite separate, but this is mainly going to be surrounding him in the present day trying to get away with the residents of Smallville, not knowing that he is Superman. So I guess they're going to be scheming in these photos. So the first photo that I've got is of Lois. Now Lois is just here, arms crossed, as she looks at someone, and it's probably at Clark or the boys, but we'll have to wait and see. Now the next photo after that is of all of the family sitting down and talking about this, because they are definitely going to be listening to one another. However, Clark and Lois, I think, are going to be pretty dead set on trying to convince people, but as the synopsis suggests, it's going to be Jordan and Jonathan who are going to be kind of the counterpoint and show the different reasons why maybe it would be okay if the world knew that he was Superman, because already he's pretty much well known in the community that he is supposedly Superman, and it's going to take a lot, as I said earlier, to convince the rest of Smallville to think that he is not Superman. But the photo that comes after this is again inside the house in the kitchen, just maybe a couple of minutes later after they've had that conversation, but the two share a pretty stern look, that being Jordan and Jonathan in this photo, and I feel like they're going to be agreeing on most of the stuff, but maybe this is a kind of frown after what Clark and Lois have been telling them. Maybe they just totally disagree with what they've been saying about him trying to conceal his identity, especially after Jordan has just revealed his identity to Candace for Jonathan, of course. Now the next photo is of Clark and Lois at the table. They share a sweet moment. I guess they've just had that conversation, and then afterwards, you know, they share a moment where Lois supports him for what he's trying to do, or maybe it's the other way around, but this is pretty much focusing on what Clark is trying to do right now, so it's probably that way. Now we got one more photo. This is from maybe a scene a couple minutes later or something like that, but it's Clark standing up and talking to Jonathan, and this could be one of the moments where you have the boys disagreeing with Clark and them actually telling him their proper opinions. And now let's move on to the final photo that we've got, and we got Lois on the ground as she is reading a manual on how to, I guess, put up something. It looks like a general piece of furniture, and you got the boys not really helping, just standing there idly in the background, but they're presumably having a conversation. But Clark is not to be seen, so maybe he is out. I don't know if this is all in chronological order or not, but yeah, that's what we got from the photos, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. That pretty much does it. We broke down the sneak peek, the synopsis, as well as the photos. Again, I want to remind you guys, I'm going to have my review and breakdown out tomorrow night, right after Superman Lois finishes airing, and that is going to be breaking down episode 7, A Regular Guy, that we've been talking about. So I'm really looking forward to that episode. Next week we're going to have a lot more videos, so don't go anywhere. Also, we'll have the trailer breakdown for episode 8 out just the day after the episode airs. But that pretty much does it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment, and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. But for now, you can click on the top right corner of the screen to watch my latest video, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.